The moment you were told to never ask questions is the moment where you stopped trusting your genius. This is part 6 of how the effects of religious programming may still be operating in your life and how to recognize it. I am Tamara Tamu. This is Unleashed Alchemy TV. All right, where on this show, we talk about stepping into your sovereignty so that you can live a complete, ultimate, optimal, luxurious life of freedom, okay, with complete confidence. All right, so let's jump right in. Now, you've walked away from religion. And sometimes you don't know that that dogma is still operating in your life. It took me 20 plus years to realize that dogma was still operating in my life even after I left. But I'm doing this series to let you know that it does not have to take you 20 years. Yes, leaving religion, leaving church, there is a certain level of freedom, but there is more for you to experience. All right. So, one of the ways to know that dogma is still running your life is when you put a lid, you put a cap on yourself by not allowing yourself to ask thought-provoking questions. And this could be in any scenario. Okay, why does this still play out in your life? Because religion teaches you that asking questions is sinful. In fact, dangerous, unacceptable. It tells you that thinking critically and questioning things is off limits. Okay? So I want you to think about how many times when you were told something, and whoever was giving you the rule or the limits, they were telling you this is how it is. This is how this thing has to be done. There's no other way. This is how it's always been. And you had questions. You wanted to question the person. Not to be argumentative. You just had questions because you felt that something was a little off with what that person was telling you, or what the person was telling you didn't make sense. But you decided to hold back your questions because you didn't want to rock the boat, because you didn't want to stir up something, because you didn't want to be a pain in the ass, because you didn't want to cause any trouble, because you wanted to, quote, keep the peace. You decided that you needed to just trust and accept what you were being told. That thinking is fruit of the religious dogma tree, and it is still operating in your life. And when I say that, that is not a judgment. I am saying that for you to observe where the dogma is still running your life. When you observe it, you also have the power to do something about it. Part of that power is recognizing its effect. Another thing that you can do is register for my program that begins June 7th. And I'm calling it Deconstructing Religion and Rediscovering Sovereignty. You see, there's a lot of talk about religion, how it got started, what the Bible is, and there's so many beautiful conversations. But what I'm finding is that the identity part of this, the emotional part that religion has had its tie in, no one is talking about it. No one is addressing it. And I'm starting this program, holding this program, because this is something that I wish I would have had. And it would not have taken me 20 plus years to see that religious dogma was still running my life. I needed support to go through my nervous system and rewire, rediscover the sovereignty within me that was hidden underneath all of that religious programming. So I'm inviting you to register for the event. It's a live sessions across 8 sessions. I know that's a lot, but there's work that we have to do. Can the work be challenging? Yes, but it does not have to take you a long time. The transformation can be quick. And 8 sessions versus 20 plus years, yes, that's quick. When you say that's quick, yeah, I would say so. So to register, look for the link in the description box of this video, all right, to claim your spot. So let's get back into the video. Now, going back to how this idea shows up in your life, where you are functioning from the identity of a person that believes that they can't question. There's been many times that your opportunity to question something that didn't make sense to you came up, but you chose to just trust and accept what you were being told, even when your body was telling you that something was off. You carry the identity that asking questions makes you look bothersome, makes you look argumentative. So here's what you need to do. You need to examine and acknowledge. What is that limiting story telling you? What is the idea? What is that telling you? To not question something. What is that making you believe is going to happen if you question what you are being told? Do you think that the other person is that there's going to be some big blowout or some big conflict? Are you going to be shunned away? Do you fear you're going to be shunned away? Are you fearing that you're going to be in some type of trouble for asking questions, thought-provoking questions? Is it going to ruffle some feathers of the people around you? Maybe not even with the person that you're directing the question to, but just other people around you. Is that going to ruffle some feathers, do you believe? Examine and acknowledge what that limiting story is telling you. What you have to understand is allowing yourself to question gives you the power. Actually, it doesn't give you power. You're reclaiming your power and your sovereignty to choose for yourself. When you ask the question, and again, we can apply this to everything. Everything. When you allow yourself to ask questions, you are giving yourself, reclaiming your power to choose for yourself. So if you're in a situation, you ask the question, the answer doesn't vibe with you. Well, guess what? You still remain in the sovereign seat of your life to now choose, well, do I stay in this situation? Do I stay in this environment based on the answer that the person gave me? Well, you would know the answer if you didn't allow yourself to ask the thought-provoking questions. You see how that works? And I'm going to give you some examples of how you can start to implement this practice of asking questions to reclaim your power as a sovereign being to ask thought-provoking questions. And you can use this practice as an empowering mechanism in your life. So, for example, I'm going to give you a simple example because it doesn't have to be this big thing. Let's say that you're on a plane and you notice that, people are coming on, they haven't, the flight attendant hasn't been given the manifest, because I know that, at a certain time during the flight, you can't change your seat, but just go with me here. You get on the plane, you realize there's a bunch of empty seats, and you see a seat that would suit you better. Ask the question of Can I switch the seat? For you, and now you may be saying, well, is that really thought provoking? Maybe. It could be thought provoking for the flight attendant to look at you and say, oh yeah, there's still time. You can move seats. Or it may be thought provoking for the flight attendant that looked around and saw the empty seats and never asked, hey, does anyone want to change seats? Another way that you can use this practice of asking questions is if you're in a restaurant and you're at a table that you don't want to be at. A question could be, hey, I'd like to have that table over there by the window. Can we have that table over there by the window instead of the table near the kitchen? That's asking questions, is getting, here's what, the reason why I'm giving you these simple examples is because if you have never allowed yourself to ask questions, to ask for yourself, then you have to reactivate that muscle. And it starts with the simple, mundane questions or the mundane ways that I just gave you. Traveling, asking questions in a restaurant. Even if you are at work, you work for someone, you work for a company. Now, I know that can get touchy, but just hear me out. Some people don't ask questions in their work environment because asking questions, they may think it could get them fired. And there's evidence of people getting fired from asking too many questions on a job. How do I know that? Because that has happened to me. And yet, being fired from that job from asking too many questions, it moved me into something greater. I will say that, but we'll save that for another video. But even in your job, you're told something, you're in a meeting, something does not make sense. How many times have you passed on the opportunity to ask a question, but you did not because you didn't want to rock the boat? Well, if it was because you thought you were going to get fired, examine and acknowledge that story. This is about activating that sovereign muscle of asking questions so that you can embrace the identity of an individual that can choose for themselves. All right. So leave me your takeaways from this video, from this entire series. This is part 6. We have 2 more parts to go. Okay. So thank you for sticking around. All right. If you have never subscribed, if you're new here, or if you've been watching my videos and you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified first of when I drop new videos. All right. Until next time, be sovereign.